Victoria, how are you?
I'm sad.
What did you think when you saw the officers today?
It just made me sad, disgusted. They look like me. They look like my brother. It's not something easy to digest. So just processing what's going on.
How are y'all getting through it every day? I know it's hard.
No day is the same. We just try to be there for one another. Today is hard.
And we have his sister Kiana, who obviously was like a second mom to Tyre, that looked after her baby brother, and she's probably taking it the hardest today.
What would you just like to say to know about your brother?
Just want to know he was a good little brother, but just seeing them in real time and knowing what they did to him, they tortured him, they laughed at him, and just to see them in person and to know that I would never see my brother again because of him, it just really breaks my heart.
Ambulance duty crew, respond for an adult female fallen. Unable to ambulate. Robbins Road, 11 Chester's Place. Repeating to Woodstock Ambulance duty crew, respond for an adult.
Today, we will be in Memphis. This past week, the 5 former Memphis police officers appeared in court Friday after several motions were filed in the case in regards to their alleged involvement in the unaliving of Tyre Nichols. All 5 officers, Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, Justin Smith, Emmett Martin, and Desmond Mills Jr., have received several felony charges, including second-degree murder, aggravated assault, and aggravated kidnapping. They have all entered not guilty pleas. A deadline for discovery from all parties, which includes information about witnesses or evidence to be used in the case, has been set for the next court date of August 18, 2023.
All right, we're here on indictment number 2300241. State, where it stands today?
Yes, Your Honor. We have everything we've given to defense counsels and everybody now has in terms of discovery. Mr. Stingle, in particular, has done a fabulous job sort of cataloging discovery and pointing out things that attorneys don't have yet and the state doesn't have yet. So we're using Mr. Stingle's index and letter as a guide to try to track all that stuff down for all the attorneys. So discovery is very, very, very substantially complete. We're just using Mr. Stingle's list now to go through and get more information for the attorneys that the state's not in possession of yet.
Do we have an idea of time frame?
So I think that the time frame of getting the various stuff would probably be 30 days or maybe 45 days. Some of it is bench notes and things from TBI that's going to require consent orders from the various parties and things. So maybe 45, 60 days sort of time frame, and hopefully track down everything that Mr. Singles pointed out that the attorneys may want or need.
On May 19th, we had discussed the motion for the media coalition. We had some deadlines as far as the June 5th deadline. Has there been any issues as far as?
No issues, Your Honor. The state has filed the index that Your Honor requested, sent it to all the attorneys, sent it to the court. The state's also filed along with that sort of the state's opinion on what is releasable and or maybe not releasable due to Garrity considerations primarily. Defense counsels have filed various motions or their opinions on releasability of certain things. So I think Your Honor has all of those motions and everybody's opinion on it. I turned over to the court this morning the binders of all that information for the court's review. So I think it's probably that issue is at the point of the court's review now. And I think the expectation is probably a report date on that for Your Honor's ruling, or if you need more from the parties, for Your Honor, more from the parties. That may be something that happened quicker. than the rest of the information that Mr. Nichols requested.
Defense counsel, is there anything else you wish to add? As far as the responses to that June 5th deadline, has everyone had an opportunity to file any responses that they wish to file on those?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
Yes, sir. We were going to use today as a deadline, and seeing that everybody has had an opportunity to respond, I have received the responses from different counsels on those. I will look over those responses. As far as a time to come back, we hadn't got everybody's calendars previously.
Maybe the 17th or 18th of that week?
That works for everybody else.
All right. August 18th?
August 18th.
Yes, sir.
All right. And we will show this matter reset to August 18th. We'll have that as a tentative deadline as far as trying to get the discovery completed on this. In the meantime, the court will review those documents, review the responses. If we need to have a hearing on that, then I will have the clerk reach out and we will schedule a hearing, either have it on that date, or if we need to do it prior to that date, then we can set that prior to that date. But we will use August 18th as our comeback date, and hopefully at that time we'll be able to have the discovery finished.
Your Honor, for that August 18th date, as we can see what is required when people come to court, could I ask that the defendants not be required to appear on the 18th?
At this point, why don't we anticipate the discovery being completed? If it does in fact look as though the discovery will complete, we'll have the defendants present for the state to be able to make that announcement. If we get word that it is not going to be complete at that time, then we will notify the parties, and we can make sure that the presence is waived on that day.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
All right. Is there any other matters that we need to bring before the board?
No, sir.
All right. And I did notice that there were some other individual motions that were filed by some of the defense counsel. If there's a hearing date that is needed on those respective motions, please contact the clerk and the state, and we can set hearings on those as well.
Your Honor, pursuant to your rules, your chambers have received copies of any of the motions, and if those are the motions you're talking about. It's my motion to sever, motion for bill of particulars, and so I prepared this, but I really frankly didn't know who to give it to, for your honor. But as it relates to a hearing, Mr. Hagerman and I have agreed that we're going to discuss what's contained in my bill of particulars to see if a hearing is necessary. Is that right, Mr. Hagerman?
That's correct. I mean,
There's no sense in wasting the court's time if Mr. Hagerman and I can talk about it.
All right. Well, and that's what the court is, I guess, just indicating. If you all speak and we need to have a hearing on any of these other motions that have been filed, we can just get with the clerk and schedule those motions.
And likewise, I think I'm in the same position as Mr. Zumock and his client on behalf of Mr. Bean. What I was thinking, though, as there was a mention about an index of questions regarding additional discovery, I might hold off on one time to get a date prior to me. But I'll do the courtesy copy now. Thank you.
All right. Well, then we will show this matter reset until August 18th. At that point, we do anticipate the defendants being present, but if something changes, we will send word to counsel that the defendant's presence will be waived. All right. Thank you all for being present.
Thank you.
Thank you. 29-year-old Tyre was unalive after a confrontation with police following a traffic stop in January 2023 and was hospitalized 3 days before he succumbed to his injuries on January 10th. The body camera footage released by the Memphis Police Department showed officers beating Tyre and targeting him with pepper spray as he began yelling for his mother, who lived a few houses down from where the encounter occurred. Officers can be seen in the footage standing over Tyre while he is on the ground. As 2 officers hold him down, a third kicked him. A 4th officer comes over with a baton, and the officers pick up Tyre from the ground and hold him up while the officer appears to strike him in the face and torso, the footage will show. The Memphis Police Department has since gotten rid of the Scorpion Unit. That's the task force that the 5 officers were on. Ahead of their June 23rd court appearance, attorneys for Justin and Tadarius filed motions asking to separate their trials from the other officers, according to news sources. In the report filings, Justin's attorneys argued that he was not at one of the two scenes that have been presented as video evidence. They argued a jury might decide Justin to be in some way responsible for the action of his fellow former officers if they are tried together. The news outlets reported that Tadarius' motion similarly argued there were various responses to the incident and each officer initiated different levels of physical contact with Tyre. His attorney said a jury might convict him based on the actions of the other officers.
Well, you are just watching those 5 former officers leaving the courtroom. The judge deciding to set that next court date at August 18th. That will be for the discovery deadline, which is any more evidence in this case. The lawyers all agreeing that that date would work for them. Again, they were also talking about those separate motions that we were telling you about earlier, about everything that's come out this week. 2 of the defendants wanting their trials separated from the others. The judge said that he will set those hearings at a later date after looking at all of those motions. So no word yet on exactly when that will be. They also talked about still setting another hearing for the discovery for all of the media coalition to see if we will be able to see any more of that video release. We know that the city released about 20 hours of that January 7th traffic stop where we saw Tyre Nichols, the beating of Tyre Nichols, being pepper sprayed as well. But the city says there are hundreds of hours worth of video. The media coalition has filed petitioning to see more of that. Judge said that he will look at that motion and make a hearing on that later on as well. But again, coming out of that courtroom, it lasted about 10 minutes from about 9:02. They just left about a minute ago from the courtroom, again saying that that next court date was August 18th.
Attorneys for Desmond and Emmett previously told reporters that their clients were devastated about the charges. In a statement to news sources, Desmond's attorney, Blake Ballin, encouraged the public to use caution and patience in judging Desmond's actions. Also, Emmett's attorney, William Macy, said, "It's going to be a difficult case, no doubt about it. I'm aware of the effects of the video, but I do not have all of the information yet." Following the court hearing, Tyre Nichols' family will be outside of the courtroom because they attended the hearing today, and the news spoke with them and also asked how they felt seeing the 5 alleged people who did what they did.
Today's hearing was really a lot of housekeeping. It was a lot of housekeeping rules and just figuring out how they're going to prepare for trial. That's really what this was all about today. Jay Shakur is live inside of outside of the courtroom right now. Jay, what can you tell us from your end?
Yvonne, Aaron, today's hearing is the first hearing since February. This hearing was reset and rescheduled from May 31st. And as you mentioned, a lot of housekeeping, a lot of steps and movement as it concerns evidence. Now, we just saw the mother and the family of Tyre Nichols just walk out of the courtroom after the 5 former MPD officers walked out. As you mentioned, they have reset. They're going to move forward to August 18th. That's the deadline for evidence and discovery. Still no decision on that motion to release that 20-plus hour of video and those additional documents, as you mentioned, and going back to August 18th when they will appear again. Not clear if the 5 former officers will have to appear, but again, that hearing is about the completion of evidence and discovery.
A lot of anger, a lot of hurt, a lot of frustration. Gotta sit back and look over my mom, my sisters, going through it. And it's like, to just look at them and they black men just like me. They got brothers just like me, and I just don't understand why they had to kill my little brother, why they couldn't show no remorse towards my brother. And now I gotta sit here and be the man with my mom, my sisters, and pretty much everybody else in my family. So it's like, it sucks, makes me very angry.
Jamal, we know you're from California. Is this your very first time sitting in on one of these court proceedings?
For my brother, yes, correct.
What was running through your mind?
Anger, a lot of anger. I've been very vocal about a lot of stuff, and it just, for me, I can be very strong at times, but it's just when my sister just breaks down crying right next to me. You know, like I'm they little brother, but they my babies too. You know, so it hurts. You know, and just seeing my mom just pretty much just really deteriorating still. You know, so again, like. It shouldn't happen with no race, no colors at all, but just to see 5 black officers that I know they got brothers and sisters kill my little brother that's beyond me.
I know was it intentional not to come, and why was today the day you decided I want to be here?
What you mean? I'm gonna be here every one. I just didn't come to the other one because, I got kids back at home, so I'm a father first too.
Can you spell your name and provide your age, please?
JAMALDUPREE 36.
Jamal, what are some of the words if you had a chance to face these officers, these 5 former officers, what are some of the words you would have for them?
Why? What was the point? What was the reason? What did y'all gain out of this? And that's just if I can say that, I don't know. You can say a bunch of stuff like, oh, I'm going to say this or I'm going to do this or whatever, but when it's right there in front of you and, it's not just my emotions that I got to worry about. I got to worry about theirs as well, So it's like, I don't know what I would say, to be honest, at that time.
You were just hearing from the family of Tyre Nichols, his older brother Jamal Dupree and his older sister. His older brother just saying how hard it was to be in that courtroom today. Now, we do have the attorney for Desmond Mills, one of the fired officers. We're going to listen in on what he had to say after today's court hearing.
I'm going to review it myself, review it with my expert, and see if we need to track down anything else.
I know a lot of people are probably wondering, how long does it usually take to overlook something like this and then get whatever you need to go forward?
Now, you're not going to like this answer. It takes as long as it takes. So, all right, well, I appreciate it, guys, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.
Again, that was Blake Ballin representing Desmond Mills Jr. Honestly, let's go back to the family. That's the first time we've heard, really, from Tyre's brother and sisters, Jamal, Toya, and Kiana.
Yeah.
And your heart breaks for that family every time you see them. You see Rovon Wells and Rodney Wells there, and it's going to be quite a long and lengthy trial. ADA Paul Hagerman, who's representing the state, who's the lead prosecutor, had mentioned that the evidence that they have is substantial evidence.
Yeah.
And it's going to take time to go through all of that, for the attorneys to look at that and to meet that deadline for August 18th.
Yeah, as you just heard Attorney Blake Ballin say, it will take as long as it takes. Are we able to go back to, okay, we're going to go there now to the DA to hear what they have to say, and then maybe we can get an update on what Ballin had to say from Jay.
What's really left? What do you anticipate the defense really wanting?
So discovery is always a process. It's ongoing throughout the case, even up till trial. So it's always a process. We've turned over everything we have in our possession, which is over a terabyte, I think, of information. So it's been quite extensive, and TBI and people in my office and everybody have done really a great job getting a lot at all these defense attorneys in a relatively quick period of time. So things are not, I know they seem to be progressing slowly, but given the amount of information from where all it's coming, things are going fast in terms of discovery.
Is that what we saw you rolling into the courtroom today?
What I rolled in earlier was the city and county material that right now is being litigated as to its releasability or not. So the judge could keep those binders in his chambers. That's what I rolled in. But to get the idea of how much a terabyte is, you saw me roll in those binders. That was an incredibly small fraction, less than 1% of what would be the discovery in the matter. So you get an idea of volume and things. What's missing are things, Mr. Stengel in particular did a real good job going through discovery, and not that it's missing, it's just other information defense attorneys may want. Some of it is information from TBI scientists that as a matter of course is only turned over after a court order is entered and things. So it's most of it's typical type discovery that we just have to go round up and get to the attorneys.
What's the state's position on the motion to sever that was filed?
We'll take our position once it sort of becomes appropriate. It's common for defense attorneys to go ahead and file motions, even at this stage of the case when a trial hasn't been set. But a motion to sever is more like a trial motion. And when we get close to that point, we'll make our position quite clear on that.
One motion to sever at this point, Justice Smith?
There may have been two filed, but like I said, attorneys file their motions at different times. A motion to sever contemplates a trial setting. We're at the point where we're talking about ending discovery. So it's a little early to litigate any of those, but we have a quite clear position on a motion to sever, for instance, that we'll make clear at the appropriate time.
Paul, we keep hearing about this additional evidence that could be released or made public. What is this that we're possibly waiting for? What is this?
Well, it was the subject of the last hearing. There have been numerous freedom of information requests made to the city and to the county regarding personnel files and documentation and things that the city and the county have in their possession, which is not our office. That was all turned over to the court. That was the binders that you saw me rolling in. So I'd say it's probably about 3,000 pages or so of information, plus maybe about 14 or 15 additional videos relating to the case. The judge has to make a decision as to what of that is releasable to the public. We've made our position clear at the last hearing that we favor transparency and for the judge to be able to release whatever he deems he can. There's legal restrictions, though, the constitutional rights of the defendants to a fair trial and questions of privilege and things like that. So the judge has to sort that stuff out before he makes a ruling. Hopefully we'll have that ruling sooner rather than later, and there'll be some more information released to y'all.
And if and when anything is released, is that going to come through you guys, or is it going to go back to the city and their...
It really shouldn't come from us. We've acted at the court's request to gather this information from the city and county and distribute it to the defense attorneys and to index it. I would expect that if the judge enters an order, it would be that the city and county can release this documentation or should release this documentation.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You were just listening to DA Paul Hagerman talk about just how much evidence is in this case, everything they have to go through. He described it as being a terabyte worth of data. That is a ton of information, talking about what he rolled into the courtroom, just binders and folders only being a 1% of everything that they've had to go through. Again, he said nothing is missing from that August 18th discovery deadline they've given, which is about 45 days from now. He said it's just things like TBI scientists information that would only be available once a motion is filed. So he said it's nothing really missing out of that evidence that the attorneys don't have, just extra things they may need as they take this to trial.
And you heard reporters keep asking about the video, this video that could be released. And Hagerman talked about that. He said there's about 14 to 15 additional videos, but that the judge will have to decide whether or not he will release that video, more of it, to the public, and how that will actually work, because there are still legal ramifications, whether if you do or if you don't. That will be up to a judge to decide.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is very clear that the parts of the video that we did see, Tyre was done wrong, and what happened should have never happened. We will just have to see how all of it plays out in the coming future and hope for full justice for Tyre, his daughter, his mother, and the rest of his extended family in this much difficult time still. So please comment your thoughts and prayers for this family as they continue to battle this going forward, that full justice gets served for Tyre. And remember to hit that like button to share to make your people aware. And as always, remember, stay woke. Things change quickly.